Hey to the most amazing nurses. It is Dr. V here with Morning Infusion with Dr. V podcast, where we are intentional about teaching nurses how to work from anywhere around the world, making money and owning your own time, building profitable nurse coaching and consulting businesses. You will hear from amazing guests that have grown their companies and want to share insight into how you can do the same to change the face of healthcare as we know it. If you want to grow your businesses and leverage your knowledge as a nurse to grow wildly successful businesses at the top, instead of working your way to the top, head on over and join our Millionaire Nurse CEO group on Facebook, where you can ask questions and get updates on our live and virtual events to help you grow your businesses. Good evening or good morning, everyone. This is Dr. V, and so first we have the amazing Dr. Bridgette Jenkins. Okay, so we had a lot of technical issues before getting into this podcast, so I know it's going to be fire. Okay, so just so y'all know, so y'all need to stay in and get plugged in. Another thing is that I'd like for you to like, share, and comment on the podcast. Tell us what you like about it. Tell us what we can do better. Any of those things. So first of all, I would like to for Dr. Bridgette to introduce herself in her own words.
Well, hello, everyone. First of all, I want to say, Dr. V, thank you so much for having me, inviting me to be a part of your podcast. And I'd like to greet your audience. I am Dr. Bridgette Jenkins. I am this little girl from Louisiana, Baton Rouge to be specific, living in Texas pretty much my whole life, but I still call Baton Rouge, Louisiana my home. I am your bounce back coach. I am an author. I'm a registered nurse, have been for 25 years. I'm a coach. I'm a mentor to many. But most important, Dr. V, I am a child of the Most High God. I am his daughter. So I'm a minister. I'm a counselor. I serve in my church. I serve in my community in any capacity that they need me to serve in. I'm an educator. I teach a lot of health and wellness courses because I believe, just as the Bible says, that God wants us to be prosperous and in good health. I am a serial entrepreneur, author of 8 books, 2 businesses, and then I have 3 amazing adult children and 2 grandsons. So that's just a little bit about who I am.
I love it. I love it. You know, the grandsons are probably the best thing out of the children. I mean, you know, they're all right. But,
yeah. Them grandchildren, they special.
That's right. That's right. That's right. So, okay. So, you know, we always go back and we always want to start with, you know, the reason why you even wanted to become a nurse, you know, because some of us, like me, like we never wanted to become a nurse. It was never a thing that I even thought about when I was younger. So why did you even become a nurse?
Let me tell you, you know how everybody growing up, they want to be a ballerina, they want to be a doctor, they want to be this, they want to be that, a teacher. I only to be a nurse my whole life. And here's why. My grandfather, my father's parents, my grandfather was sick and he was back and forth in the hospital, and I watched these people take care of him in Jackson, Mississippi. But they were all white. And then so he got really sick and they sent him back to Texas, to Fort Sam Houston in San Antonio, Texas. And I never seen a Black nurse, never. And so I'll never forget, we were in the waiting room while grandpa was being seen, and we were sitting out with my grandmother, and I saw this lady, as Black as I am, completely in white with the nurse's hat on her head. And as she walked by, I'll never forget, it was like, and then I said, "Are you a nurse?" She says, "I am." She was actually a lieutenant in the Army Corps, Army Nurse Corps. And at that moment, I knew I could become a nurse. I had assisted my grandmother with taking care of my grandfather. Go getting him some water, take his temperature, put a cool towel on his head, serving him like my grandmother did. But to see all these white ladies taking care of him, I was like, this, it's a white, nurses are white, until I saw her. And from that day on, I declared that I was going to be a nurse, and I was 7 or 8 years old at that time.
You know what? I love that. I love that representation. And I say that all the time because representation is everything, right? You can't believe that you can do it. And I tell the story about rounding the fountain at the hospital in which I work at. And I remember rounding that fountain, and I heard on the radio that Oprah Winfrey was a billionaire. And I was like, a billionaire with a B? Wait a minute. What is going on here? And of course, because you don't, what happens is you go back and you look at their history and you think that they have something that you don't have, right? And when I found out that her mom and her daddy met at the oak tree, and that her daddy just wanted to find out what was under her mama's skirt, and then found out, and then Oprah was born, and that she didn't have, like, I thought about myself, and I thought, well, I've never had any instances where Christmas was never promised to me, or I didn't think that I was going to get Christmas. And those were times in which she had. And if she had that and I have this,
yes,
I can do anything.
I could be a millionaire.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly. And so that is the moment that literally is, well, of course, there's a multitude of moments, but that was one of the moments that just really changed my life. So thank you for telling that story. Okay. So tell me, so you became a nurse, right? And so what was one of the first places that you worked at initially?
So crazy. Okay. So I'm a teenage mother. I got pregnant with my oldest daughter, Amber, at 17 years old. I had her when I was 18, 2 months out of high school. And at the time here in Houston, I was going to the charity hospital. It was called Jefferson Davis. If I tell you them nurses treated me something terrible there, and I kept remembering I'm gonna still be a nurse, even in this situation where I heard constantly that I wasn't going to be anything because I had this baby as a teen mom. I wasn't going to make it in life. But I say I'm going to be a nurse, and I'm going to change how people get treated at this hospital because it was terrible. 18 years old. And so fast forward to when I graduated from nursing school at 25, my first job was at this hospital. They changed the name from Jefferson Davis, changed the building, but they closed that building because it was old and dilapidated, and moved to LBJ Hospital. My first job was at that hospital in labor and delivery. Yes.
Did you meet those nurses again?
And I'll tell you, one of the first nurses I met, I didn't remember her name, but I remembered her voice. And they were taking us on a tour of the unit, and I heard her voice, and I said, that's that lady that told me I wasn't going to be nothing. I never forget.
So she's the one that told you weren't going to be nothing?
I mean, I heard it from everybody, pretty much family, everybody. But I heard it from her, and I didn't know her name, but I heard her voice, and I remembered her voice. And when I heard her voice on the unit that day, when we were rounding all of the new hires, the graduate nurses, I recognized her voice, and I looked up, and it was her.
Did you say anything?
I did.
What'd you say?
I said, hello, how are you? Nice to meet you. And she was still mean at that hospital. She said, go on in with your group. She was still mean. Wow. But I ended up working with her for over 10 years. Sweetest pie ever. Yes.
Well, she was sweet as pie to you, but after you done start working with her, but she went to the patients, was she?
She wasn't to the patients either, still. Yes.
Wow.
So I picked that job because I said, I want to change how these women are treated in labor and delivery because it was not good.
Wow. Mm-hmm. I remember a story because I had this, I was listening to one of the influencers, and he was talking about this kid who had written this paper. And the kid, and so many people they kill people's dreams like that, right? I'm so glad that you were resilient and that you were like, listen, I don't care what you say, I ain't gonna do. I'm gonna do this, right? Because what he said was the kid wrote a paper about what his life was gonna be like. And because the teacher said, you're a nomadic kid and you're not gonna make it, and she gave him an F. And so he took the F home to his daddy, and he was like, what do I do about this? And he said, well, that's your decision. And so the kid brought the paper back to the teacher and said, you keep your F, I'll keep my dream. And so years later, because what he said was he was going to own a ranch with all these horses, and it was going to be, he described it to a T, right? And it was, I want to say, 42-acre ranch. And sure enough, that same teacher came back to that same ranch with a number of students, and she said I was sort of a dream killer at that time, but she was glad that he had made it out.
Yes.
That's crazy.
Yes.
Crazy, crazy, crazy. I love that. So, okay. So now tell me, now you go and you become a labor and delivery nurse. After you become a labor and delivery nurse, how did you transition to become a Dr. Bridgette Jenkins?
Okay. So I worked in labor and delivery for 10 years. I love that place. I love what I was doing at the time. I loved my coworkers. We're all still really close now, even today, some 25 years later. And so I got sick. I started having health challenges. I was losing my vision. I was going to the eye doctor every 2 to 3 months, like, these glasses not working. He's like, we just got glasses. I'm like, they're not working. I don't understand what's going on here. And he's like looking in my eyes. He said, I don't know why. So I'm constantly, for about a year, I think I went to the eye doctor 3 or 4 times. And every time I went, my prescription changed. And so he said, I need to consult with your primary doctor because something's not right here. And so he did, and she ran a lot of tests, and she said, I really want you to go see a rheumatologist. And she said, you have headaches, you have, sometimes I'm holding a glass of water and it just drop out my hand, like I lose my strength. And so she sent me to a rheumatologist, and she started telling me that I think you have multiple sclerosis. I said, MS? She's like, yes. And she said, because your vision is changing too rapidly and you have a lot of the other signs and symptoms. And so at this point, I had to make a decision. I was working, so labor and delivery is very high acuity. And what that means is the patients come in, they have a lot of needs, healthcare needs. You got to be on your toes. You got to be able to work and think and act quickly because their life and the baby's life could depend on it. And so this vision loss that I was having was slowing me down. And so I decided to leave that job. So I left the job and I went on disability while they try to figure out what was wrong with me. And running a lot of tests. But in that time, I'm not going to lie, Dr. V, I was at home waddling and crying in my grief because I loved my job. It's the only job I ever wanted. I wanted to be an L&D nurse. That's all I wanted to do. And so I couldn't do it anymore. And so I was sad. But one day I got up and I said, these kids need me. I was a single mom by this time. They need me, and I can't, if I don't do it, it's not going to get done. And so I enrolled in a school to get my master's, and I had to make a decision. So I started in women's health nurse practitioner, but then I realized that with my vision loss, it was getting too hard for me to do some of the things. So I went to my advisor and asked her, could I switch? And she's like, yeah, this is the perfect time to switch before you go into the next level. So I switched to nurse education. Mm-hmm. And I got my master's degree in nursing education and started teaching at a local community college here. And I absolutely loved it. And guess what I taught?
What?
OB.
Health.
OB. It was amazing. I loved it, and I say, okay, God, I see, I can still do what I love to do, and it was so good because I took one clinical group back to the hospital I used to work at, so I got to see my friends and all the doctors and stuff again, and I loved it. It was amazing, and so as I was working with my master's at one of the bigger colleges here in the Houston area, the opportunity came to get our doctorates. And I had already swore after I got my master's, I was going back to school again. And so, but when this opportunity came, I couldn't pass it up. And I said,
Free?
huh?
Was it free?
It was free. The school that I worked for, they said, hey, we're starting a DNP program, and we want y'all to go and tell us what we need to fix, tell us how good it is and what we need to change. So I was I was the second cohort to graduate from Chamberlain College of Nursing with my doctorate degree.
Wow, I love it. So how long ago was that?
I got my doctorate in 2015.
2015. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. And that, what you said about really because you basically, you did it for someone else at that time. You're doing it for yourself at this time. But at that time, monetizing the knowledge that you already know. And I tell them all the time, you have such a skill set.
Yes.
And you are saving lives. You can take that skill set outside the organization, and then you can really, really affect change within the organization.
Yes.
And just be and literally on your own time. Like, how cool is that?
Yes.
Now, I want to get to where you were on hospice. So how did that come about?
So remember I told you I started losing my vision. So I lost a significant amount of vision, and then it stopped. I didn't lose any more. And I have been, this eyes have been stable since 2012. Hadn't lost any more vision. So God is good. But some other things started happening. I started having other symptoms. I was having these massive debilitating headaches and joint pain. Well, the MS diagnosis didn't come to fruition. I was negative for MS. And they was like, yeah, I just still believe you have MS because of, all the symptoms. But the doctor, my insurance changed. And so I had to go see another rheumatologist because that one was out of network now. And I went to see another one. She was looking at my chart, and she said, I'm going to just run an autoimmune panel. I'm not going to be so specific. Because my ANA, the anti-nucleotide acid test, came back positive. That means I had an autoimmune disease. And I was like, okay, but we know it's not MS because they specifically tested me for that, and it wasn't. So since the ANA was positive, she wanted to run just a full autoimmune disease panel. And I came back for 3 autoimmune diseases.
Wow.
And so I received a diagnosis of lupus, rheumatoid arthritis, and Sjogren's. And at the time of me receiving
Now, can you tell the audience what Sjogren's?
Sjogren's is a form of it's an autoimmune disease that affects your eyes and your mouth. It affects your mucous membranes. So you have dry eyes or dry mouth.
Gotcha.
And sometimes it affects other parts of your body where there's a mucous membrane. Any area of body that's always supposed to be slippery or wet, it will be dry because it attacks that part and is no longer able to produce the mucus causing antibodies that you need in your body. And then was RA, rheumatoid arthritis. It affects your joints. They can be inflamed and painful. And then lupus, it affects the entire body, and including the joints. And the form that I was diagnosed with affected my brain. And so as a result, I had multiple strokes. I had pseudotumor cerebri. So it's like I have a brain tumor, but it's not there, but my body thinks it's there. And I had a brain aneurysm. So is really, really bad in 2016. Um, it was bad in 2015, but I couldn't let it be bad because I was at the end of my doctorate. So yes, I was sick in my doctorate.
Mm.
I lost so my vision was starting to fade, but not from what they thought it was. It was because of the pressure in my brain, the pseudo tumor. And so I was in my last semester and I couldn't see. I could barely see. So I had one of my good girlfriends, her name is Bridgette as well. She came and she would read to me and I tell her what to type so I can do my homework. It's
Oh,
so important that you have good girlfriens,
listen.
good people around to help you, because she helped me. I'll tell them what to type. She read, because I could process what you read to me, and they type it and I get my assignments done. So yeah. And so I fought in 2016. I was working part-time. I was on disability and I was traveling with my organization, still trying to have some kind of normalcy in life, although I was in excruciating pain every day. Taking multiple pain pills, on steroids. So I was about, at this time, I think I was about 254 at this time. I weighed 254 pounds because I was on the steroids. So it was a very dark time for me. But in 2017, it really got bad. Um, my head was hurting so bad. I couldn't walk. I couldn't even bend my knees. I couldn't bend my fingers. My elbows were so full of fluid. I couldn't bend my arms back. I just stayed stuck in one spot. It was really bad. And the doctors were saying I was constantly in the hospital, in the hospital, in the hospital. Um, in the last visit, they said, we're going to give you some oxymorphone for this pain because it was really bad. And I was on morphine, I was on fentanyl, and I still was in severe pain. It was so bad. Dr. V, was so bad. I remember praying and asking God to go ahead and take me because I couldn't, it was so bad. I would put a towel in my mouth because I was gritting my teeth down, bite my tongue, scraping my teeth because the pain was so bad, even though I was on all these heavy pain meds.
Wow.
And I remember I was in the hospital and they had done multiple tests. And this doctor, they flew him in from somewhere to see me. And he came in and he said, I'm going to do a spinal tap on you. I want to look at your spinal fluid. He said, this is bad. And I have a suspicion, but I want to see. He said, have you ever been told that you had encephalitis? And I was like, no, that's when your brain swell, inflammation in the brain. I said, no. He said, have you been outside and gotten bitten by mosquitoes, anything? I said, no, I don't get out of my bed pretty much. And he said, okay. He said, I'm going to just run some tests. And I'll never forget, I went, they took me down to the area where they do the spinal tap. And I hear them talking. And he said, I'm going to need you to hold real still. Now I'm an instructor. I'm a nurse and I'm an instructor. So I noticed, I said, I know the spiel. I curve my back. I'm on the table because they didn't want me to sit up. They wanted me to lay down. So I'm on my side and I curl my back and I just get in the fetal position like I'm supposed to. He said, you know the drill. You had one of these before? I said, no. I said, I'm a nurse. I'm a nurse instructor. I know what it is. He came around and he looked. He said, you a nurse? And I said, I am. He said, thank you for your service. I say, you're welcome. Thank you for your
Doctor. I like him already. Okay, go ahead.
He said, I'm finna touch you. I said, okay. And even though he told me I still jumped, he said, are you okay? I said, I was ready for that. I don't know why I jumped. He said, you're very sensitive. He said, it's normal. I was like, okay. He said, so I'm going to keep my hand so that won't happen again. I said, okay. And he said, okay, I'm wiping you off with something cold. I felt it. It was like freezing, even though it was just cold. And he said, okay, I'm about to place the catheter. And I had a very bad headache. I will never forget it. I write about this in my book, one of my books. He played.
You bet.
So he placed the needle, and all I remember him saying was, "Oh my God, this lady is sick."
Mm.
And I remember just laying there, tears just started running down my face, because to hear this doctor say this, I know I'm sick.
Right. Right.
Because doctors, they think they can fix anything, right?
Right.
And so he walked around and his gown was wet. And I looked up and he said, "How do you feel?" I said, "My headache is gone."
Mm.
He said, "I figured." I said, "What's that on the front of your gown? Is that CSF?" He said, "Yes." So when he accessed my spinal space, the fluid just shot out.
Wow.
Pressure was so much, but I felt better. So over the next 6 or 7 days, I had one almost every day.
Wow.
It was just constantly building up, headache. My head started hurting. They called the doctor, they come. And so on the last day, he said, "We can't keep accessing your spinal space." He said, "It's high risk for infection and death." He said, "Bridgette, there's nothing else we can do for you."
Wow.
And I was like, "What do you mean?" I'm a nurse. I've heard this before, right?
Right.
He said, "There's nothing else we can do for you." I said, "Well, what's causing this?" He says, "All the autoimmune diseases you have." And he said, "We're going to send you home. Just make you comfortable."
Ugh. How did you feel in that moment?
Um, I was afraid for my children.
How old were they?
Um, the oldest one was 5. The next one, he was 19. No, he was 17, getting ready to graduate and go off to college. And then my baby was 15.
Mm.
And she was home and he was here too, but he left and went off to college. And it was just she and I. So she saw me at my worst and she was there. She actually drove me to the hospital, that last admission that I had. Um, so my play sister Deidre, she picked me up. Well, she followed me, my daughter and I home, but they gave me all these prescriptions and the oxymorphone. The only thing that was really helping with the pain, um, we couldn't find it. She went to like 6 or 7 pharmacists, but I had the fentanyl. I had a fentanyl patch. I had morphine pills, and so we were taking that. And then that evening, a nurse came and she was from a home health agency that was supposed to get me in. So I was having a nurse. I had a grief counselor come. And then the second day is when the nurse came from hospice. Um, and I was by myself. I was on the couch because when my daughter would leave for school, I would go get on the couch because I couldn't come down the stairs alone. And we had this thing on the door. So if they rung the doorbell, I could answer the door.
Gotcha.
And the door was open because I couldn't get up. It was unlocked, I should say. And so I said, "Just come in." She said she was a nurse. And I said, "Just come in. It's open." And she came in and I said, "Who you're with?" And I could barely see. And she told me some hospice. I said, "No, you got to leave." She said, "Ma'am." I said, "No, you got to leave. Get out of my house." I said, "I will live and not die and declare the works of the Lord." She said, "Ma'am, I said, "Get out of my house. I will live and not die and declare the works of the Lord." And I say, "You got to leave now. Get out now." I'm weak and barely can move, telling this woman to get out. I'm trying to get up off the couch because I really need her to leave. And she said, "Okay, I'm going to leave because you seem upset." I said, and I just remember keep saying, I will live and not die and declare the works of the Lord until she left. And then when she left, I got back on the couch. But at that moment, I began to pray and ask God if this was the end for me. And I said, if it's the end, okay. The kids are going to be okay. I made sure they have policies, they have what they need to have a good start in life. I know I've instilled what they need to be amazing adults. I said, so I'm going to be okay. And I said, if it's time, I'm going to go. And I went to sleep. And my nurse came, and my TV stays on TBN. Even now, it's on TBN. And the preacher on TV, he was saying, if you got something that's killing you, won't go away, a habit you need to get rid of, you need to pray and you need to fast. Matthew 17:21. You need to go on a 21-day fast. So I was like, oh, I said, we need to go on a fast. So my nurse and I laughing. And I said, yeah, we need to go on a fast. And she's like, you can't go on a fast. I said, I know. And so I was talking to my girlfriend on the phone, Briggs. She called every morning. And I said, I heard this preacher said Matthew 17:21. Read it to me. And it says some things move by only fasting and prayer. And I was like, oh, okay. And then she said, okay, well, I'll talk to you later. When I get off work, I'll call you. So we followed. Her name was Kelly Lane at this time. That next morning, we were watching Kelly. She called me and wake me up. You up? I said, yes, on. She come on Facebook Live and pray every morning. And she did a little preach. She preached for a few minutes, and then she said, y'all, God told me to tell me somebody on here need to do a fast, a 21-day fast.
Second time he done told you, you better listen to him.
It's gonna change your life. And so my nurse was there, and I said, I gotta do a fast. She said, Miss Bridget, you can't do no fast.
Yes, I can.
You're gonna kill yourself. I said, and I'm gonna die anyway. Might as well fight.
And he's the one that created you, right? If he is the one that created you and he's telling you to do the fast, and he's the one that can heal you. Absolutely. So anyway, so go ahead. I'm loving this story. Go ahead.
Yes. And so me and Bridget, she said, Lord, I ain't never fasted in my life. I ain't never prayed this much in my life. Lord, have mercy. What am I doing? And BJ, Lord. Now I remember her saying, I don't know how to pray, Lord, but Lord, don't let this girl die on this fast on me, because I'm going to do it with her. So that next day, we read the scripture, where she read it to me. And I'll memorize it. I'm gonna just say it every day. And I turned down my plate. My nurse don't bring me no food. She said, I can't believe you're doing this. She said, I have to let the doctor know. I said, you can tell them whatever. They said I'm gonna die anyway. I might as well die believing and fighting. And so we did the fast. We started the fast. And Briggs even did it with me. She even made it. And I remember about day 7 or 8, my nurse said, Miss Bridget, she was looking at a paper. I say, yeah, my vision was coming back too. She say, you haven't had no morphine in 6 days? I said, huh? She said, you in pain? And I started touching my body. I was like, and I started.
This is so good.
Thank you, Jesus. Thank you, Jesus. I say, because you could touch me and I would jump. I was always in pain, constant pain.
This is so good.
I said, I'm not in any pain. Are you sure? So I don't remember when I stopped hurting, because I had hurt so long and so bad. I don't remember when the day was, but when I realized, because it had become a habit to be in pain, right? But when she brought it to my attention, I was taking my regular meds. She would just give them to me. But this morphine, you had to sign for it. You had to write it down. They had to keep a log. and I hadn't had none in 6 days.
Wow.
And I was like, oh my God, I got to keep going. He's moving in my life. And I was telling Breeze, and she was happy. She came to the house. We was praising God together, and I was thanking God. And I kept going, and we made it to 21 days. Nothing but water.
Wow.
My life changed. I was really weak, but I wasn't sick, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
The pain that I had been having was gone. The joint swelling was gone. My daughter said, you skinny. All that inflammation and pain in my body was gone. 21 days.
Wow.
So at the 21-day mark, we was praising God and thanking God. And Kelly got on. And then she said, okay, y'all, this is the last day of our 21-day fast, because, we did it together. And she said, but somebody got to keep going.
Mm.
She said, God wants you to do 30 days because he's not done.
Mm-hmm.
She said, no, it ain't me. My girlfriend, Briggs, she said, it ain't me. I'm about to eat.
About to go get me a steak.
Yes, say, it's me. It's me. I'm going to go for it. I'm going to keep going. But I also heard, because I could barely move. I was not being able to move because I was hurting, because I was so weak that I needed to take some liquid, some nourishment. And I was like, okay, God, I don't know what to do. And so Briggs said, maybe you can do some cold pressed juice. You can juice. I can't juice. I can't even stand up in the kitchen and wash my hands at the sink. I was so weak. So I was telling my other friend, Dr. Erica Alexander, I was telling her about it. And she said, oh, sis, I got it. I got somebody for you. So she connected me with this lady named Tamala Austin with Jive Juice.
Mm-hmm.
That same day, I mean, it's like I hung up and that lady was at my house in 20 or 30 minutes with the juice I needed.
Mm.
So she makes the juice, and she
Mm-hmm.
makes a few smoothies. And my girlfriend made bone broth. And so I'm sipping on this every day, and I feel my strength coming back.
Mm.
By 30 days, I was walking, shouting in the living room, take a few steps, shout, take a few steps, shout. Because God did it. God healed my body on that 30-day fast. Now, if you test me for lupus, I don't even test positive for it.
Wow.
That. None of that medicine they was giving me, none of that stuff worked. None of it.
Wow.
It was God.
I
Matthew 17:21.
Listen, and it's very ironic, because I was talking to my daughter last night about this, because we're on we're doing Lent, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so, and my church always participates in Lent, and I will participate in Lent, but I participate in my own way, because
Yeah.
I'm do right. And so, so because they be drinking all water, right? And I was like, nah, bruh. I was like, I'm not going all them 40 days without no coffee. Y'all done lost every marble y'all got. Our pastor convicted us, right? And he was like, he said, in order for there to be change in your home, you have got to participate in the fast, and everybody in your family.
Yes.
And so my husband heard that, right? Because my husband was kind of like I was, like, we ain't stopping our coffee. And so we have been doing water, nothing but water. And like, I'm a juicer. Like, I like cold pressed juice.
Yeah.
I ain't juicing, right? And so I am eating, okay? So so we've been doing that. And I was telling my daughter just last night, I said, let me tell you something about fasting and praying. It is game changing. Game changing. Like, he will come in and he will suddenly change your life.
Suddenly.
And so, yeah, you know, I was talking to my, you know, because we had some things that were going on in the business, and I was struggling with the business, and then suddenly, like it turned right around, and I was like, "Look at the Lord with
Yeah.
this water that I didn't want to drink." Look at him working out. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. So this has been such a great interview, and I knew it would be because we were having some crazy challenges from the very
Yeah.
beginning,
Yeah.
right? Crazy, crazy challenges. So thank you so much for coming here. So tell people where they can find you.
They can follow me on social media. I am Dr. Bridgette, and Bridgette is Bridgette, the long way, on all social media platforms. And you can go to my website, it's drbridgette.com.
I love it. So we are having our master class. It's coming up. You know, it's on a Tuesday, whenever. I don't know when this is going to air, but you can go to our website, vpnursing.com, and sign up for the website. And I want you to comment on Dr. Bridgette's story and tell us what you think about it. I want you to tell us all about the good, the bad, the ugly, and then also like and share this podcast because it was amazing. And I hope it inspires someone.
Yes.
And so thank you for sharing your story. Because I always say that whenever the reason why we go through things is, you know, because there was a few things that I think came out of the story. One thing is that you declared life over your body. There's power of life and death in the tongue.
Yes.
And a lot of people are declaring death in their bodies, or they're declaring death over their whole being, right?
Yes.
But also, what you went through was not for you. What you went through was for the person who will receive the inspiration to keep going.
Yes.
So,
don't give up.
I love it. I love it. I love it. So thank you, Dr. Bridgette. You guys have a phenomenal rest of your day.
You